The wisdom of the Ari opens upon the mystery of Adam Kadmon, the primordial configuration of divine will as it streamed forth after the great contraction, the Tzimtzum, when the infinite withdrew its all-pervasive light to allow a point of otherness to emerge, a Chalal Panu, an empty space within which creation could unfold. From that silent void, like the eye of eternity, the infinite projected a single ray, a cave of subtle luminosity, neither diminished in its source nor diminished in its flow, yet measured in its descent, ordered according to hidden rhythms. The first form which that line of light assumed was Adam Kadmon, not man as flesh and clay, but man as archetype, the all-encompassing blueprint of consciousness, the universal vessel through which all subsequent worlds would be projected. The sages of Safe knew that in contemplating Adam Kadmon, one stood not merely before an image, but before the first gate, the Sahar, the threshold by which all mystical ascent becomes possible, for within the very limbs and orifices of that primordial man lies the distribution of divine radiance into the structures of Atzilut, Bariah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. The Sahar Adam Kadmon, then, is not only a doctrine to be studied but a practice to be lived, for by aligning the inner faculties of the soul with the outpouring of light from Adam Kadmon's eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, the mystic becomes a participant in the very drama of emanation, drawing down power for transformation and returning it upward in a cycle of unceasing devotion. To begin to comprehend the Sahar is to recognize that Adam Kadmon is not a being external to the contemplator, but the interface of the contemplator's own soul when stripped of corporeal coverings. Thus, the practice of Lurianic Kabbalah is nothing less than a gradual removal of veils, each intention peeling away another layer of separation, until the aspirant perceives himself as a reflection of that archetypal form. When the Kav entered the void and spread through the frame of Adam Kadmon, it did not simply remain within him, but shone forth through apertures, each a gate, each a Sahar, through which the light streamed into further worlds. The eyes gave rise to one configuration of Partsufim, the ears another, the nostrils another, the mouth yet another, until the entire symphony of sefirot and their interactions was born. The mystic who meditates upon these streams of light, directing thought to the subtle correspondences of breath, sight, and sound within his own body, awakens to the realization that every human organ is a miniature gate of Adam Kadmon, and that through proper technique of visualization, recitation, and breath, one may harmonize one's own microcosmic body with the macrocosmic body of the primordial man. The rituals surrounding Sahar Adam Kadmon begin with preparation, for just as the infinite prepared space by contraction, so must the mystic contract his own ego. Through fasting, purification of speech, restraint of thought, and sanctification of intention, one enacts a microcosmic tzimtzum, emptying the vessel of self to receive the cab of divine influx. The Ari himself would withdraw from the ordinary bustle of Safe and prepare through immersion in the mikveh, through chants of the 72 triplets of the divine name, and through meditations on the unifications of YHVH and Adni, until his consciousness was cleansed of mundane residue. Only then would he ascend into the contemplation of Adam Kadmon, for the light that emerges from the Sahar is so intense that to approach it unpurified is to risk confusion, distortion, or even madness. Once purified, the adept fixes his thought on the tzimtzum itself, imagining the infinite contracting into a circle, withdrawing its boundless presence into a concealed point. From that point he envisions the straight line, the Kav, descending into the void, clothed in radiance yet bounded by divine will. He then pictures this Kav configuring itself into the outline of a vast anthropoid form, luminous and immeasurable, the head reaching beyond comprehension, the body extending in unfathomable proportion. Within this vast figure he contemplates the apertures, the eyes shining with immeasurable brilliance, the ears resounding with the eternal word, the nostrils exhaling subtle currents of life, the mouth uttering the letters that sustain all beings. These apertures are the Sahar, the gates of emanation, and through them, light pours forth into the lesser realms, contracting, refracting, and clothing itself until it becomes the familiar sefirot. By holding this vision in sustained concentration, the mystic begins to feel those gates within his own head, his own eyes radiating inward light, his ears attuned to celestial resonance, his breath aligned with the nostrils of the cosmic form, his words an echo of the primordial speech. Thus, ritual contemplation becomes not mere imagination, but participation, a grafting of the individual soul into the architecture of Adam Kadmon. But this is not only visionary practice, it is also practical theurgy. The Ari taught that prayer is effective only when the words are pronounced with the proper kavanah, the inner unifications of divine names that align the worshipper with the flow of Adam Kadmon's light. For each blessing, each psalm, each word of Torah, there is a specific meditation connecting it to one of the gates. For example, when uttering the Shema, one must intend the unification of the name YHVH with a Ni, a unification flowing from the eyes of Adam Kadmon, whose gaze illumines all creation. When reciting Kedusha, one must imagine the light emerging from the nostrils of Adam Kadmon, elevating the soul with the breath of holiness. In this way, the liturgy itself becomes a map of the Sahar, guiding the worshipper step by step through the gates until his words resonate with cosmic speech. The adept learns that every prayer is a thread woven into the garments of Adam Kadmon, every syllable a spark returning to its primordial source. The Sahar Adam Kadmon also provides a framework for meditating on the mysteries of exile and redemption. For when the light first emerged through the gates, it entered vessels that shattered under its intensity, producing the catastrophe of Shevet HaKelem. Those sparks fell into the lower worlds, clothed in husks, awaiting redemption. The mystic, aligning himself with Adam Kadmon, becomes an agent of tikkun, gathering sparks through his thoughts, prayers, and actions. When he contemplates the gates of Adam Kadmon, he perceives the original flow of light before the shattering, and by harmonizing his soul with that flow, he draws fragments of light back toward their source. Thus, the practice of Sahar Adam Kadmon is not only ascent for the sake of knowledge but descent for the sake of restoration. Each visualization repairs a rupture, each recitation heals a fracture, until gradually the worlds are reknit, and the primordial harmony is restored. At advanced levels, the mystic may engage in yuchudim, unifications, that focus on specific apertures of Adam Kadmon. For example, the eyes correspond to the emanation of Abba and Ima, the higher intellects of Atzilut, and by meditating on the flow from those eyes, one draws illumination for wisdom and understanding. The ears correspond to the dynamics of Zir Anpin and Nukva, and meditation upon them draws harmony in the emotional attributes and in the relationship between the masculine and feminine aspects of the soul. The nose is associated with the power of Ruach, the breath of life, and meditating on its exhalations brings vitality and purification. The mouth corresponds to Malchut, the world of speech and manifestation, and focusing on it sanctifies the words of Torah and prayer, elevating language to its divine origin. Through such yuchudim, the mystic traverses the gates, one by one, until the entire body of Adam Kadmon becomes transparent, and the infinite light beyond is glimpsed. This path is not without danger. The Ari warned that the light of Adam Kadmon is so sublime that it can dazzle and confuse, leading one to mistake imagination for revelation. Therefore, the techniques must always be grounded in halakhic practice, in the rhythm of mitzvot and prayer, for only in that framework can the ecstatic visions be integrated. To abandon the law is to risk shattering one's own vessel, repeating on the microcosmic scale the catastrophe of Shevet HaKelem. The true adept therefore balances contemplation with action, vision with discipline, ascent with return. In this balance lies the secret of the Sahar. The gate opens only for those who both yearn upward and serve downward, who recognize that the highest light is to be found in the sanctification of the ordinary. The rituals surrounding the Sahar Adam Kadmon thus blend the cosmic with the intimate. A typical sequence begins with immersion in the mikveh to enact purification, followed by recitation of specific psalms, particularly those that invoke divine kingship and the restoration of light. The adept then sits in silence, visualizing the circle of Tzimtzum and the descent of the Kav, gradually shaping the image of Adam Kadmon in imagination. He focuses on one aperture, aligning it with his own body, the eyes with his vision, the ears with his hearing, the nose with his breath, the mouth with his speech. He then recites divine names corresponding to that aperture, allowing the sound to resonate within the body. At each stage, he contemplates the sparks being elevated, the vessels being repaired, the worlds being sustained. When the meditation is complete, he recites verses of thanksgiving, grounding himself in gratitude and returning to ordinary consciousness. Such is the rhythm of the Sahar: contraction, vision, unification, restoration, return. To proceed more deeply into the Sahar Adam Kadmon, one must turn attention to the mystery of the Partsufim, for Adam Kadmon is not merely an undifferentiated figure, but a structure containing within itself the seeds of all subsequent faces of divinity, each Partsuf a personification of divine attributes, clothed in the forms of intellect, emotion, and kingship. The light that emerged from Adam Kadmon did not descend directly into the sefirot but issued forth in ordered streams through his apertures, each stream organizing itself into one or more Partsufim. Thus, the eyes of Adam Kadmon shone forth a brilliant radiance that became the roots of Abba and Ima, the supernal father and mother. The ears emitted sound that formed the basis of the dynamics of Zir Anpin and Nukva. The son and the daughter, the nostrils exhaled breath that carried the currents of Ruach HaKodesh, sanctifying the flow of vitality into the lower worlds. The mouth uttered the primordial speech that clothed itself as Malchut, the kingdom, vessel through which the divine light enters creation. Each of these processes corresponds to a Sahar, a gate, and by meditating upon them the mystic learns to attune his own consciousness to the inner dynamics of the Godhead, entering into the flow of emanation as an active participant. When contemplating the eyes of Adam Kadmon, one should envision radiant streams of light emerging as twin beams, refracting into the forms of Abba and Ima. Abba is the archetype of Chakma, the flash of insight, pure intellectual seed, while Ima is Binah, the womb of understanding, the matrix in which ideas gestate and unfold into articulated forms. The adept, focusing upon his own eyes, meditates upon the union of wisdom and understanding within himself, visualizing a line of light entering his right eye as Chakma and flowing to his left as Binah, joining in harmony at the bridge of the nose. To strengthen this contemplation, he may recite verses invoking wisdom, such as God gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who understand, Daniel chapter 2 verse 21, while inwardly intending the unification of YHVH in its vocalized form with Ahi, the name of becoming, symbolizing the continual birth of wisdom from nothingness into being. By dwelling upon this unification, the adept becomes a vessel for supernal insight, aligning his own intellect with that of Adam Kadmon, so that his thoughts become sparks of primordial wisdom cascading into the lower worlds. From the ears of Adam Kadmon emerges another flow, subtle and resonant, associated with the dynamics of Zir Anpin, the microprosopis, and Nukva, the female counterpart. These Partsufim embody the emotional attributes and their harmonization, the love and awe, compassion and judgment, that govern the heart of creation. The mystic, attuning himself to this flow, contemplates the vibrations within his own ears, listening inwardly to the resonance of divine speech, the eternal reverberation of let there be. In silence, he allows the echo of primordial sound to fill his mind, recognizing that every tone of creation is sustained by this resonance. He then focuses on the balance between right and left, the flow of love from the right ear, the flow of awe from the left, meeting in the heart as harmony. In prayer, this meditation may be joined with the recitation of the Shema, for the Shema is the declaration of unity that binds love and awe together. Thus, as he whispers here, O Israel, the adept envisions his ears as the ears of Adam Kadmon, receiving the eternal unity, and his heart as the harmonized seat of the divine attributes. The nostrils of Adam Kadmon are yet another Sahar, exhaling subtle currents of Ruach, the breath of life. These breaths are the carriers of mercy and judgment, sweetened through their blending, and they correspond to the mysteries of the incense offering, which rises as smoke and fragrance, pleasing before the throne. The mystic, attuning himself to this gate, breathes deeply and rhythmically, imagining each inhalation as drawing in the pure breath of Adam Kadmon and each exhalation as releasing it into the worlds. By synchronizing breath with intention, he becomes a conduit of divine vitality, joining his own Ruach with the cosmic Ruach. In ritual practice, this may be enacted through the chanting of sacred names during inhalation and exhalation, such as intoning the name YHVH on the in-breath and Adni on the out-breath, uniting heaven and earth with each cycle of respiration. The adept may also meditate upon the smoke of incense, either physically burning spices or visualizing their rising fragrance, aligning his imagination with the breath of Adam Kadmon and offering his own soul as a sweet savor before the infinite. The mouth of Adam Kadmon is perhaps the most accessible gate, for from it emerges speech, and speech is the foundation of prayer and Torah. The light issuing from the mouth became clothed in letters, and those letters formed the basis of creation itself. Thus, every word spoken by the mystic is a potential participation in the divine speech. The adept, therefore, purifies his language, avoiding falsehood and profanity, sanctifying his words, so that they may serve as vessels of the primordial utterance. In meditation, he visualizes his own mouth as aligned with the mouth of Adam Kadmon, each word a spark descending into creation. When reciting blessings, he intends that his speech is not merely human but divine, that through his words the world is sustained. This is especially powerful in the Amida, the silent standing prayer, where each blessing corresponds to a specific configuration of sefirot, and the adept, visualizing the mouth of Adam Kadmon, imagines his own speech as joining with that archetypal utterance. The unification of YHVH with a ni, the central theme of the Ari's covenant, becomes here not a mere concept but a lived reality. The mouth of man becoming the mouth of God, the finite echoing the infinite. These contemplations are not isolated but interwoven into the fabric of daily life. Each prayer service becomes an ascent through the Sahar. In Shacharit, the morning prayer, one focuses on the eyes of Adam Kadmon, drawing the light of wisdom to illuminate the day. In Mincha, the afternoon prayer, one focuses on the nostrils, the breath sustaining the heart during the labor of the day. In Mariv, the evening prayer, one focuses on the ears, attuning to the inner resonance of unity as darkness falls, and in the recitation of bedtime Shema, one focuses on the mouth, sanctifying speech before surrendering to sleep. In this rhythm, daily practice mirrors the eternal rhythm of emanation, and the mystic learns to live in continual alignment with Adam Kadmon. But beyond daily practice, there are special rituals for deeper ascent, particularly on Sabbaths and festivals, when the gates open more widely. On the eve of Shabbat, as candles are lit and the worlds ascend, the mystic visualizes the entirety of Adam Kadmon clothed in luminous garments, each gate shining forth with intensified brilliance. He imagines his own body as a reflection, as glowing with wisdom, ears resounding with love and awe, breath fragrant with holiness, mouth uttering sanctity. As he sings Lecha Dodi, he envisions the union of Zir Anpin and Nukva, harmonized through the resonance of Adam Kadmon's ears, and as he recites Kiddush over wine, he imagines the flow of light from the mouth of Adam Kadmon, descending into the cup, sanctifying the drink as a vessel of divine speech. On Yom Kippur Kama, the holiest day, the mystic may meditate upon the nostrils of Adam Kadmon, for the day itself is one of fasting from physical sustenance, living instead on the subtle breath of holiness. By focusing on breath throughout the day, synchronizing inhalations with the divine names, the mystic participates in the life breath of Adam Kadmon, ascending beyond corporeal hunger into pure spiritual vitality. A key technique in these rituals is the visualization of letters and names flowing through the gates. The adept imagines the letters Yadi Vav He streaming from the eyes of Adam Kadmon, combining with Aleph He Yadi from the ears, merging with Aleph Dalet Nun Yod from the nostrils, and finally clothed as Aid and Alim in the mouth. By sustaining this vision, he perceives the unification of the divine names as they descend through the gates, each letter refracting the infinite light into a form comprehensible to the lower worlds. This is the essence of Yechudim, the unifications that the Ari taught. Not merely conceptual exercises but lived experiences of divine flow. The mystic becomes a weaver of names, threading them through the Sahar until the tapestry of creation is restored to harmony. Such practices are demanding, requiring not only knowledge but discipline, for the mind resists sustained focus, and the body grows restless. Therefore, the adept must train gradually, beginning with short meditations and increasing duration over time. He may start by focusing on the eyes alone, visualizing their light for a few minutes each day, and gradually expanding to include the ears, nostrils, and mouth. He may chant short names at first, such as YHVH or Ehe, before progressing to longer permutations and combinations. Over months and years, his capacity grows, and the gates open more readily. Eventually, he may find that simply closing his eyes and breathing with intention brings him instantly into alignment with Adam Kadmon, for the Sahar has become not distant portals but inner realities, dwelling within his own soul. The vision of Adam Kadmon is incomplete without the remembrance of catastrophe, for the first movements of emanation did not unfold in harmony but in fracture, and it is this fracture that gives urgency to all mystical labor. When the light issued forth from the Sahar of Adam Kadmon, its intensity was beyond the capacity of the primordial vessels to contain. The sefirot, receiving this unmitigated brilliance, could not bear its weight. They shattered, their shards descending into the abyss of the lower worlds, their sparks clothed in husks, concealed in darkness. This event, known as Shever HaKelim, the breaking of the vessels, is the archetypal trauma of creation, the wound from which all exile and suffering derive. It was not a mistake but a necessity, for without shattering, there could be no multiplicity, no free will, no history of repair. Yet the mystic who contemplates Sahar Adam Kadmon feels the poignancy of this shattering, perceiving within the gates both the brilliance of original light and the sorrow of its dispersion. From the eyes of Adam Kadmon, the light emerged as rays, powerful and unrestrained, forming the beginnings of Abba and Ima. Yet their brilliance was too concentrated and many vessels broke. From the ears flowed sound, reverberations of infinite speech, but their resonance split the containers that attempted to hold them. From the nostrils issued breath, alternating currents of mercy and judgment, yet even these were too potent, and vessels cracked under their rhythm. From the mouth poured forth words, letters of creation, but the letters were like fiery embers that consumed their own holders. Thus, from each Sahar, light flowed forth, and from each Sahar, catastrophe ensued. The mystic, meditating upon this, realizes that the gates are not merely openings of abundance but thresholds of danger, where the infinite nears the finite, where brilliance risks becoming destruction. This duality is essential, for without the risk of shattering there could be no drama of repair, and without repair, no redemption. The doctrine of Shever HaKelim is not abstract but existential. Each soul is a fragment of those shattered vessels, each life a stage in the gathering of sparks. The mystic, in his own struggles, embodies the brokenness of creation, his desires scattered, his thoughts fragmented, his body subject to frailty. To contemplate Sahar Adam Kadmon is to remember wholeness, to perceive beyond the fracture the original harmony of emanation, and to draw that memory into the present moment as a healing force. Thus, the rituals of the Sahar are not only visions of ascent, but tools of tikkun, practices by which the mystic regathers the sparks hidden within himself and the world. The Ari taught that every mitzvah, every prayer, every act of sanctification releases sparks from their husks and elevates them to their source. When one eats with proper blessing, the sparks within the food are lifted. When one recites words of Torah, sparks are freed from the captivity of forgetfulness. When one performs acts of kindness, sparks are drawn from the husks of selfishness and raised into light. Yet these acts become magnified when performed with the covenant of Sahar Adam Kadmon, for then the mystic does not merely act on the surface but joins his action to the cosmic drama of emanation. By visualizing the gates and aligning his own senses with them, his blessings become extensions of Adam Kadmon's speech, his breath becomes Adam Kadmon's breath, his sight Adam Kadmon's vision, his hearing Adam Kadmon's resonance. Through this identification, his every act becomes a channel for tikkun, and sparks are drawn upward with greater swiftness. One of the most profound techniques is the use of intentional visualization during prayer. When reciting Baruch Atah YHVH, the mystic envisions the letters Yadi Vav He shining forth from the eyes of Adam Kadmon, descending into the vessels of the Sefirot. He imagines these letters clothing themselves in the vessels of Abba and Ima, softening their brilliance so that the lower worlds can receive. When reciting Eloheinu Melech Ha'olam, he visualizes the light descending further, clothed through the ears and nostrils, harmonized into balance. Finally, when uttering the specific blessing, over bread, wine, or mitzvah, he envisions the light issuing from the mouth of Adam Kadmon, clothed in speech, descending into creation. In this way, each blessing becomes a miniature reenactment of emanation, repairing the rupture of Shever HaKelim by consciously guiding the light through the gates. Another ritual form of tikkun is the contemplation of sparks hidden in materiality. The Ari emphasize that even mundane acts, when performed with awareness, release sparks. Eating is a prime example. Food contains within it fragments of divine light, remnants of shattered vessels. When consumed without mindfulness, those sparks remain trapped. but when eaten with blessing and meditation, they are elevated. Thus, the adept sits before bread, contemplates the flow of light from Adam Kadmon's mouth, remembers that all food is sustained by the primordial utterance "let there be," and aligns his own mouth with that archetypal mouth. He blesses with intention, chews with mindfulness, and swallows with visualization, imagining the sparks rising through his breath and speech into the higher worlds. In this act, the sahar becomes a living reality, and the meal itself becomes a ritual of cosmic repair. The Sabbath is a time of heightened tikkun, for on this day the gates open more widely, and the light flows with greater gentleness, clothed in garments of rest. The mystic, contemplating the sahar on Shabbat, envisions the streams of light from Adam Kadmon not as shattering brilliance, but as softened radiance, clothed in joy and peace. The kiddush over wine becomes an especially potent act of repair. The cup symbolizes Malchut, the vessel of speech, and the wine symbolizes the flow of hidden wisdom. By raising the cup and pronouncing the sanctification, the adept imagines himself as Adam Kadmon raising his own mouth to utter creation anew. Each sip is a release of sparks, each word a healing of rupture. In this way, the Sabbath meal becomes a reparation of the primordial feast that was shattered in the beginning, a foretaste of the ultimate restoration. The high holy days deepen this drama further. On Rosh Hashanah, when the shofar is sounded, the mystic meditates upon the nostrils of Adam Kadmon, imagining the blast as the breath of the primordial man exhaling life and judgment. Each note becomes a current of tikkun, breaking open the husks and releasing trapped sparks. On Yom Kippur, when food and drink are set aside, the mystic lives not by bread but by the subtle breath of Adam Kadmon, aligning his own respiration with that archetypal breath. Each inhalation is a drawing in of sparks, each exhalation a release upward, until by the close of the day he is emptied of husks and filled with light. On Sukkot, the branches of the lulav and etrog are waved in 6 directions, corresponding to the dimensions of Adam Kadmon's body, and the mystic envisions sparks being gathered from all corners of creation and drawn toward the sahar. On Simchat Torah, the dance with the scroll becomes a circling within the circle of Tzimtzum itself, a joyous reenactment of the primordial contraction and expansion, sparks rising in song and celebration. Underlying all these practices is the recognition that the sahar are not distant cosmic apertures, but immediate faculties of the soul. The eyes, ears, nostrils, and mouth of Adam Kadmon are mirrored in every human being. To look with compassion, to listen with humility, to breathe with awareness, to speak with truth, these are not only moral acts but mystical repairs, enactments of the sahar in daily life. The adept, therefore, strives to sanctify his senses, knowing that in doing so he participates in the restoration of worlds. When he guards his eyes from vanity, he repairs the light of Adam Kadmon's eyes. When he listens attentively, he harmonizes the flow of Adam Kadmon's ears. When he breathes calmly in prayer, he aligns with Adam Kadmon's nostrils. He speaks kindly, he heals the speech of Adam Kadmon's mouth. Thus, the cosmic drama of tikkun is enacted moment by moment in the ordinary gestures of life, provided they are performed with consciousness. Yet the mystic does not stop at ethical refinement, but ascends through ritual meditation to perceive the deeper layers of repair. In advanced Kavanah, he visualizes the light returning upward through the sahar, retracing the path of shattering in reverse. Sparks gathered from food, prayer, and action are envisioned as ascending through the mouth, clothed in speech, then rising as breath through the nostrils, harmonized in sound through the ears, and finally transfigured into pure light through the eyes. In this ascent, the sparks rejoin their source, and the fracture of Sheveret HaKelim is gradually healed. Each ritual becomes a thread in this great weaving, each intention a stitch in the cosmic garment, until slowly, imperceptibly, the wounds of creation are bound and the harmony of Adam Kadmon is restored. The Ari hinted that the ultimate tikkun would occur with the coming of Messiah, when all sparks will be gathered and the primordial harmony revealed. Yet he also taught that each individual act of repair hastens this redemption, for every spark raised shortens the exile. The mystic who practices sahar Adam Kadmon, therefore, lives in the paradox of the already and the not yet. Already participating in restoration through his meditations and actions, yet not yet seeing the fullness of redemption. His life becomes a pilgrimage through the gates, each day another step in the ascent, each prayer another spark lifted, each breath another ripple of repair, To walk this path is to live in continual remembrance of both catastrophe and hope, brokenness and healing, exile and return. If the contemplation of Sahar Adam Kadmon begins with vision, breath, and speech, it culminates in the subtle art of Yechudam, the sacred unifications of divine names and Partsufim. For the Ari revealed that the ultimate work of the mystic is not merely to perceive the flow of light through the gates but to bind it, to weave the fragmented letters back into their primordial unity. The gates of Adam Kadmon are not passive openings, but thresholds through which the adept must pass, gathering sparks and restoring their harmony by intentional unification. Thus, the mystic becomes not only a witness to emanation, but an active participant in the repair of the Godhead's own face, binding together the scattered radiance of Adam Kadmon's eyes, ears, nostrils, and mouth into a single luminous presence. The practice of Yechudam requires precision. Each divine name corresponds to a specific aperture of Adam Kadmon, and the adept must know which names to combine, in what order, and with what intention. The name YHVH, in its vocalizations, corresponds often to the eyes, for their light shines as wisdom clothed in understanding. The name EHYEH, I am becoming, corresponds to the ears, for it is through sound that becoming is heard. The name Adni, lordship, corresponds to the mouth, where divine speech becomes manifest as authority in the world. The name Elohim corresponds to the nostrils, the balancing of mercy and judgment through breath. The mystic, visualizing these names streaming from the gates, meditates upon their union, imagining the letters intertwining, the light softening, the brilliance harmonizing. For example, he may visualize YHVH descending through the eyes to meet Adni rising from the mouth, their union forming Yadanhi, the hybrid name that symbolizes the merging of heaven and earth. He may then visualize Ehia streaming from the ears to combine with Elohim from the nostrils, forming a new harmony of sound and breath. Through such Yechudam, the scattered letters of emanation are gathered, the ruptures of Sheveret HaKelim are healed, and the light of Adam Kadmon becomes whole again in the consciousness of the mystic. The Ari taught that these Yechudam are most potent when performed during prayer, for prayer provides the structure of ascent. The Shema, the Amidah, the Kedusha, each is a rung of the ladder that Jacob saw, with angels ascending and descending. To pray without intention is to speak words without wings. But to pray with the covenant of Sahar Adam Kadmon is to ascend rung by rung through the gates, unifying names at each level. During the Shema, the adept meditates on the unification of YHVH and Adni through the eyes and mouth, binding sight and speech into unity. During the Amidah, he visualizes the breath of Adam Kadmon sustaining his own breath, uniting Elohim and Ehia. During the Kedusha, he imagines the sound of angels resounding in Adam Kadmon's ears, uniting the resonance of the heavens with the silence of the earth. In each step, the adept is not merely praying but weaving, repairing the primordial garment, transforming liturgy into theurgy. Dreams, too, are gates, and the Ari place great emphasis on the use of sleep as a time of ascent. For when the body rests, the soul ascends to higher realms, visiting chambers of wisdom and receiving glimpses of the primordial light. To prepare for such ascent, the mystic engages in rituals before sleep, sanctifying his bed as an altar and his rest as a form of prayer. The recitation of the bedtime Shema becomes an enactment of Sahar Adam Kadmon. As he covers his eyes to recite "Hear, O Israel," he imagines his vision aligning with the eyes of Adam Kadmon. As he whispers the words, he feels his speech merging with Adam Kadmon's mouth. As he breathes deeply in silence afterward, he aligns with Adam Kadmon's nostrils. As he listens to the silence of the night, he attunes to Adam Kadmon's ears. In this way, his entire body becomes a vessel for the gates, and his sleep becomes a journey through them. In the dream state, sparks ascend naturally, freed from the husks of bodily distraction. The mystic who has prepared properly may perceive visions of Adam Kadmon, not as a literal figure, but as an overwhelming brilliance clothed in human form. He may see letters of fire streaming from eyes, rivers of sound from ears, clouds of breath from nostrils, and pillars of speech from mouth. He may hear instructions, receive symbols, or glimpse sparks awaiting elevation. Upon waking, he records these dreams, not as idle fantasies, but as messages from the gates, fragments of light filtered into imagination. Over time, he learns to interpret them, discerning which visions are true emanations and which are mere projections. In this way, the Sahar of the night complements the Sahar of the day, for the gates do not close when the eyes sleep but open inward, revealing the inner dimensions of Adam Kadmon. Advanced adepts may attempt conscious ascent through the gates, a practice akin to prophetic ecstasy. The Ari describe techniques of deep visualization and controlled breathing that allow the mystic to project his consciousness upward, passing through the Sahar as Jacob ascended the ladder. The process begins with stillness, the adept emptying his mind through the practice of tzimtzum, imagining his thoughts contracting into a single point. Into this point he draws the kav, the line of light, envisioning it rising through his body until it shapes itself into Adam Kadmon within his own form. He then contemplates the gates, his eyes shining with inner light, his ears resonating with hidden sound, his nostrils exhaling subtle currents, his mouth vibrating with unutterable names. By focusing intently on one gate, he may project his consciousness through it, as if stepping into a portal. Through the eyes, he may ascend into realms of wisdom, perceiving flashes of insight and the radiance of Abba and Ima. Through the ears, he may enter realms of sound, hearing the celestial choirs and the resonance of the spheres. Through the nostrils, he may traverse currents of Ruach, traveling with the breath of angels. Through the mouth, he may pass into the world of letters, beholding the primordial Torah as fire and light. Each gate opens upon different realms, and the adept may choose his path according to need and capacity. The Ari warned, however, that such ascents are perilous, for the gates are guarded by husks, remnants of shattered vessels, that seek to draw the mystic into illusion. Thus, before attempting ascent, the adept must purify himself with fasting, immersion, and prayer, and must invoke protective names. One common technique is to recite the name of 72 triplets, derived from the verses of Exodus describing the splitting of the sea, envisioning each triplet as a shield of light surrounding him as he passes through the gate. Another is to visualize the unification of YHVH with a knee, forming Yadanhi, as a seal upon his forehead, protecting him from deceptive visions. With such safeguards, the mystic may ascend with greater confidence, knowing that he walks in the footsteps of prophets and sages. The fruits of these ascents are not private ecstasies, but public responsibilities. The mystic who perceives light through the Sahar must return with sparks for the sake of the community. Often he will receive insights into Torah, interpretations hidden within the letters, which he then teaches to others, clothing them in ordinary words so that the sparks may spread. Sometimes he will receive visions of the needs of the community, perceiving where repair is required, and he will guide rituals accordingly. The disciples of the Ari testified that he would often reveal the inner meaning of their dreams, instruct them in Yachudam to perform, and direct them to acts of kindness, for he perceived through the Sahar not only the structure of worlds but the specific repairs needed in his generation. The mystic, then, is not an isolated visionary, but a servant of Tikkun, channeling the light of Adam Kadmon into the fabric of communal life. Over time, the adept begins to experience the Sahar not as external visions but as his own nature. His sight becomes naturally luminous, perceiving sparks of holiness in all things. His hearing becomes refined, attuned to the resonance of truth in words and the dissonance of falsehood. His breath becomes sanctified, calm and steady, carrying vitality into every act. His speech becomes purified, restrained from harm and overflowing with blessing. In this way, he himself becomes a living gate, a microcosmic Adam Kadmon. To encounter such a mystic is to glimpse the primordial face of creation, for his senses radiate the presence of the infinite. This transformation is gradual, the fruit of years of practice, but it is the destiny of all who persist in the path of the Sahar. The Ari's disciples testified that he himself embodied this transformation. When he prayed, his eyes seemed to shine with a light beyond nature, his voice carried resonance that stirred the soul, his breath was fragrant with holiness, his words clothed in fire. They perceived in him not merely a man but a manifestation of Adam Kadmon's gates, a living conduit of primordial light. To sit in his presence was to feel sparks ascending, to hear mysteries revealed, to breathe with new vitality. Though his life was brief, his disciples preserved his teachings, for they understood that he had opened the Sahar for future generations, providing a path by which others could ascend. The writings of our Chayyim Vital, though clothed in difficult language, are windows into these gates, maps for those who would dare the journey. To study them with devotion is to stand already at the threshold, awaiting the moment when the gates open inward. The gates of Adam Kadmon are not only channels for individual ascent but also measures of cosmic time. For the Ari taught that history itself is the unfolding of Adam Kadmon's light into vessels, their shattering, and their eventual repair. To contemplate the Sahar is to contemplate not only the order of the supernal worlds, but the destiny of creation itself, for the movements of light through the eyes, ears, nostrils, and mouth correspond to epochs of cosmic history. Just as the first emergence of the Kab from the infinite into Adam Kadmon set the template of emanation, so too the gradual disclosure of light through the Sahar sets the rhythm of redemption, unfolding across generations and ages. From the eyes of Adam Kadmon emerged the first lights of the Partsufim, delicate streams of wisdom and understanding that could not be contained by their vessels and thus shattered, scattering sparks throughout the lower worlds. This primordial event, the Shever HaKelim, established the condition of exile, a creation in which the holy and the broken are intermingled. The Ari explained that all of human history is the slow work of gathering these sparks, repairing the vessels, and restoring the harmony of Adam Kadmon's visage. Each mitzvah, each prayer, each yichud performed by the mystic or the ordinary person alike raises sparks from the depths, reconnecting them to their source. When sufficient sparks are elevated, the Messianic era dawns, for the primordial face of Adam Kadmon is restored to its fullness. Thus, to gaze into the eyes of Adam Kadmon is to glimpse the primordial past, to hear through his ears is to perceive the present resonance of repair, to breathe with his nostrils is to feel the circulation of vitality through history, and to speak with his mouth is to participate in the future proclamation of redemption. Each gate corresponds to a dimension of time, the eyes to the memory of what was before the shattering, the ears to the unfolding of history as a living sound, the nostrils to the rhythm of generations rising and falling, and the mouth to the final utterance of redemption when all sparks are gathered. The adept who meditates on the Sahar does not merely transcend time, but learns to see time as it appears in the countenance of Adam Kadmon, discovering that history itself is the unfolding of divine perception. In this way, the cycles of sabbatical years, jubilee years, and millennia are not arbitrary but are expressions of the pulsations of Adam Kadmon's breath and gaze. The Ari taught that 6,000 years of history correspond to the 6 sefirot of Zeir Anpin, born of Adam Kadmon's eyes and ears, culminating in the 7th millennium of rest, the Sabbath of creation. But beyond this lies a higher cycle, in which each millennium is but a day in the life of Adam Kadmon, and each week of millennia a cycle of creation and destruction, rising and falling like the breath through his nostrils. To perceive the Sahar is to discern the rhythm of these vast cycles, to see history not as linear progression, but as a spiral of ascent, each shattering preparing the way for deeper repair. The messianic hope in the Lurianic system is thus inseparable from the gates. The Messiah himself is envisioned as the embodiment of Adam Kadmon's mouth, the final articulation of the divine word in the world. Just as the mouth channels breath, sound, and meaning into speech, so too the Messiah will channel the hidden lights of all previous generations into a single utterance that reveals the unity of creation. This is why the prophets describe the messianic figure as one who speaks with authority, whose word reshapes the world, whose breath slays wickedness. In Lurianic imagery, this is the opening of Adam Kadmon's mouth in fullness, when the divine word, once fragmented, is uttered without rupture. For the mystic, therefore, every act of speech is a rehearsal for the messianic moment. To sanctify one's words, to refrain from falsehood, to bless rather than curse, is to align one's mouth with the mouth of Adam Kadmon, hastening the moment when the final word may be spoken. The daily recitation of prayer becomes messianic work, for in uttering the words of the sitter the adept is aligning his own mouth with that primordial aperture. Speaking on behalf of the world, preparing the cosmos for the utterance of unity. Even the study of Torah is part of this work, for the letters of Torah are sparks scattered in exile, and to study them with intention is to reassemble them, placing them back into the mouth of Adam Kadmon from which they first issued. The ears of Adam Kadmon, too, play a role in messianic destiny. For the Ari taught that redemption depends not only on speaking but on hearing, on the ability of creation to listen to the divine resonance. The ears symbolize receptivity, the humility to hear the word of God even in exile. The Messianic age will be an age when humanity learns truly to hear, when the noise of husks is silenced and the resonance of Torah resounds without distortion. Thus the adept practices listening, not only in prayer, but in life, attuning his ears to the subtle hints of divine providence, the whispers of sparks calling for elevation. To listen with the ears of Adam Kadmon is to hear the messianic resonance already present, awaiting amplification. The nostrils, source of breath, symbolize the continuity of generations, for breath passes from parent to child, teacher to disciple, generation to generation. The Ari emphasize that redemption is not the work of a single lifetime but of countless souls returning in Gilgulim, reincarnations, each bearing sparks to be raised. The nostrils of Adam Kadmon exhale the souls into the world and inhale them back at death, circulating them until their sparks are gathered. The Messianic age will come when this breath completes its cycle, when the nostrils rest from their exhalation, and all souls return to their root. To meditate on the nostrils, therefore, is to contemplate reincarnation, to feel oneself as part of the great breathing of Adam Kadmon, to sense that one's life is a single breath in a vast respiration spanning millennia. In this way, even the smallest act of repair is part of a breath that will one day culminate in redemption. And the eyes, those radiant orbs that shine the first lights of emanation, are the vision of what is to come, the messianic future glimpsed already in primordial past. The Ari revealed that in the Messianic age the eyes of Adam Kadmon will shine without obstruction, their light no longer shattering vessels but filling them with perfect balance. This vision of harmony is what prophets glimpse in their ecstatic states, the wolf dwelling with the lamb, the earth filled with knowledge as waters cover the sea, the light of the moon as the light of the sun. These are not mere metaphors but literal glimpses into the eyes of Adam Kadmon, where the future is already radiant, awaiting only its manifestation below. To contemplate the eyes is to see redemption already accomplished in supernal realms, inspiring the mystic to labor until it is realized in this world. Thus the Sahar Adam Kadmon is the map of messianic time, the eyes revealing the vision of the end, the ears attuning to the present resonance of repair, the nostrils circulating souls through generations, and the mouth awaiting the final word. The adept who meditates upon these gates does not live in exile as others do, for he perceives exile itself as part of redemption's unfolding. He knows that every spark raised is a step toward the fullness of Adam Kadmon's visage, that every act of holiness hastens the utterance of the mouth, that every moment of listening brings the resonance closer to clarity. His life becomes messianic in orientation, not an impatient expectation, but in steady labor, aligning with the rhythms of Adam Kadmon until the gates open in their fullness. This orientation has profound practical implications. The Ari instructed his disciples to perform Yechudim not only for their own souls but for the sake of the generation, to raise sparks on behalf of Israel and the world. They were to align their personal gates, eyes, ears, nostrils, mouth, with those of Adam Kadmon, sanctifying their senses as vessels of redemption. When seeing, they were to perceive sparks; when hearing, to discern divine resonance; when breathing, to feel the circulation of souls; when speaking, to utter words of repair. In this way, their very bodies became microcosms of Adam Kadmon's Sahar, instruments for hastening the Messianic age. Indeed, the Ari hinted that the Messiah himself will be one who has perfectly aligned his own gates with those of Adam Kadmon, whose senses are so sanctified that they radiate primordial light into the world. His eyes will see the divine in all things, his ears will hear the truth in every sound, his breath will carry healing, and his words will transform reality. Such a figure is not a magician, but the embodiment of Adam Kadmon's visage, a living gate through which the infinite shines into creation. The task of the mystic, therefore, is not to wait passively for such a figure but to become a reflection of him, to embody already in part what the Messiah will embody in fullness. In this way, each mystic hastens the redemption, becoming a spark of the messianic light. As the mystic ascends deeper into the contemplation of Sahar Adam Kadmon, he begins to perceive not merely individual gates but their union, the moment when eyes, ears, nostrils, and mouth converge into a single aperture of divine light. This union is the ultimate tikkun, the restoration of Adam Kadmon in fullness, when the veil of separation falls away and the primordial visage stands unveiled. The Ari called this the Yichud HaKelelim HaGadolim, the great unification of the vessels, and it is the consummation of all mystical work. To reach this state is to become a living Adam Kadmon, to embody the Sahar itself, to transform one's body, mind, and soul into a conduit of the infinite. This union is not a static state but a living movement, a dynamic merging of perception, receptivity, breath, and speech. In the Lurianic schema, the gates of Adam Kadmon are stages of a process. The eyes gather light, the ears attune to harmony, the nostrils sustain life, and the mouth manifests the word. Only when these functions converge in perfect synchrony does the great gate open and the final tikkun occur. This convergence is the messianic moment par excellence, not a distant event, but a living possibility accessible to the adept who has sanctified all his senses. The process of this convergence begins in meditation, where the adept cultivates a practice of simultaneous perception, listening, breathing, and speech. The Ari taught specific yichudim for each gate, and advanced practice moves toward uniting them. The adept visualizes the eyes of Adam Kadmon shining forth light that enters his own eyes, hears the breath of the divine entering his ears, feels his own breath circulating in unison with the nostrils of Adam Kadmon, and intones words of holiness that flow from the mouth of the Primordial Man. This multidimensional contemplation is not an abstract exercise, but a ritual act that reconfigures the soul. It aligns the microcosm of the adept with the macrocosm of Adam Kadmon, collapsing the distance between self and source. From the Lurianic perspective, this union of gates is the true heart of Tikkun Olam, the repair of the world. For Adam Kadmon is not merely a symbol but the living reality of creation's wholeness, and to restore his Sahar is to restore the cosmos itself. The Ari taught that the shattering of the vessels was the origin of exile, and the gates of Adam Kadmon are the means of redemption. To unite them is to reverse the shattering, to reassemble the divine form, to bring heaven and earth into harmony. This is why the ultimate work of the mystic is not only inward but outward, for the perfected Sahar has effect in all worlds. In this final stage, the mystic comes to embody a profound transformation. He ceases to live as a fragmented self and becomes a living aperture of divine light. His vision is no longer partial but whole, his hearing no longer separated from the world but an attunement to the breath of the infinite, his breathing a continuous prayer, his speech the articulation of unity. In Kabbalistic language, he becomes a part of Adam Kadmon himself, a vessel in whom the light of Ein Sof shines without obstruction. This is the highest attainment of the Lurianic path, a state in which exile is ended not only for the self but for all creation. The Ari describe this state as the Olam Ha-Ba B'Olam Ha-Zeh, the world to come within this world. It is not a future beyond history but the realization of history's purpose here, and now, when the gates of Adam Kadmon open fully within the heart of the adept. In that moment, the veil between worlds dissolves, and the breath of Adam Kadmon becomes the breath of the soul, the speech of Adam Kadmon becomes the song of creation, and the vision of Adam Kadmon becomes the vision of all beings. The adept has become a living gate, a nexus of divine unity, and the labor of the ages finds its rest. This final tikkun has cosmic implications. The Ari taught that the union of the gates will bring about the rectification not only of the worlds, but of time itself. Time, which now flows as exile and fragmentation, will be transformed into a single, eternal present, the Sabbath of creation in which all divisions are healed. The Messianic age is thus the age in which the gates of Adam Kadmon stand open perpetually, a living reality in which the infinite flows without separation into the finite. The sages taught that in that age, the tree of life will stand revealed in its fullness, and the face of God will shine upon all flesh. This is the vision toward which every yichud, every prayer, every breath, and word of the mystic strives. The path toward this union is both arduous and intimate. The Ari emphasized that it requires the sanctification of the self in every dimension, in sight, hearing, breath, and speech. Each gate must be purified, each sense aligned with the divine, each action offered in service of the tikkun. The mystic's life becomes a continuous work of repair, a living liturgy in which his entire being is the offering. This is why the Ari place such importance on continual mindfulness and sanctity, for the gates open not through sudden ecstasy alone but through steady discipline, prayer, and service. Redemption is a labor, and the adept is its worker. At the deepest level, the union of gates is the realization of the most profound teaching of Lurianic Kabbalah, that creation itself is the self-manifestation of the infinite through Adam Kadmon. The Sahar is not merely a symbolic concept but the living breath of the cosmos, the measure of the divine presence in all things. To work with it is to participate in the very act of creation, to stand in the place where the finite meets the infinite. In the final tikkun, the adept becomes the gate through which the world returns to its source, the voice through which the divine calls creation home. Thus the narrative of the Sahar Adam Kadmon comes to its close as a living practice, a path of transformation in which seeing, hearing, breathing, and speaking become the gates to unity. The Lurianic teaching leaves the adept with a profound awareness that the exile is ended not only in the future, but in each moment of holiness, and that the union of gates is the restoration of the primordial face. In this union lies the heart of redemption, the full unveiling of Adam Kadmon, the opening of the eternal Sahar, and the birth of the world to come within this world. The mystic who walks this path becomes more than a seeker. He becomes a living gate, an embodiment of the breath and vision of Adam Kadmon. His life is a continuous yichud, his breath a liturgy, his speech a prayer, his seeing a revelation. He participates in the final tikkun, hastening the moment when the gates stand open forever and the face of the infinite shines upon all creation. This is the luminous destiny of the soul, the secret of the Sahar Adam Kadmon, and the ultimate teaching of the Ari, that creation itself is a gate, and through the sanctification of our senses, we may step into the fullness of that divine vision. Thus the Sahar Adam Kadmon, in its fullest unfolding, is not simply a mystical teaching but the living reality of redemption itself. It is the breath of the worlds, the vision of eternity, the unity of all being. To enter into it is to enter into the heart of creation, to become a living echo of the divine, and to stand at the threshold of the world to come. Ritual Manual for the Sahar Adam Kadmon. Introduction. This manual is structured as a living guide to working with the gates of Adam Kadmon, the eyes, ears, nostrils, and mouth, as a path toward the ultimate tikkun, repair, and the union of the Sahar. Each gate has a corresponding set of meditations and ritual techniques. The practice is designed to align the adept's senses with those of Adam Kadmon and thereby hasten the messianic restoration. 1. Preparation, sanctifying the vessel. Before engaging with the gates, the adept must sanctify the vessel, the body, and soul. This preparation mirrors Luria's emphasis on intentionality and purity. A. Purification of the body. Immersion, tevila. Immerse in a mikveh or ritual bath at dawn, representing birth into a new state of receptivity. Clothing. Wear white or simple garments to symbolize purity and openness to divine light. Posture. Stand or sit with spine straight, head raised slightly, hands relaxed but palms open. B. Purification of the mind. Shema meditation. Recite the Shema Yisrael with focused intent, imagining the words as sparks rising to unite with the Sahar. Intention, kavana. Affirm internally. Let my senses open to the gates of Adam Kadmon, that my life may become a living tikkun. 2. Meditation and yichud for each gate. Each gate represents a dimension of divine interaction. Meditative work will sanctify that sense and align it with Adam Kadmon. A. The eyes, vision of the primordial light. The eyes are the gateway to perception, the first channel of light in creation. Meditation. Sit quietly in low light, imagining your eyes opening to behold the Sahar Adam Kadmon. Visualize the radiance emerging from his eyes as a golden stream entering your own eyes. See the vessels of Zir Anpin within you filled with this light, healing and repairing your spiritual form. Yichud formula for the eyes. Chant quietly. Yichud Sahar Adam Kadmon, Meir Ein Sof, unification of the gate of Adam Kadmon, illuminator of the infinite. Practice. Spend 10 to 15 minutes daily in silent meditation, focusing on vision both inward and outward, seeing sparks of holiness in all things. Be the ears, attunement to divine resonance. The ears are the channel for listening, aligning the adept to the harmony of creation. Meditation. In silence, breathe deeply, attuning to inner sounds, the breath, heartbeat, and subtle vibrations. Imagine the ears of Adam Kadmon opening to hear all creation, and your own ears receiving this resonance. Yichud formula for the ears. Chant quietly. Yichud Sharei Adam Kadmon, Shomia Kol Alami, unification of the gates of Adam Kadmon, hearer of all worlds. Practice. Dedicate time each day to deep listening, prayer, nature, sacred chant, or Torah study, with full presence. See the nostrils, breath of generations. The nostrils represent the breath, the circulation of life and souls. Meditation. Sit in quiet, breathing naturally but consciously, sensing the breath as the breath of Adam Kadmon. Visualize each inhalation drawing sparks upward and each exhalation returning sparks into creation. Yichud formula for the nostrils. Chant quietly. Yichud Piyat Adam Kadmon, Nafishet Mirachivit, unification of the nostrils of Adam Kadmon, breaths of souls. Practice. Practice breath meditation twice daily, ideally morning and evening, focusing on breathing as prayer. The mouth, utterance of redemption. The mouth is the channel for divine speech, the word that completes tikkun. Meditation. Recite a sacred passage, e.g., Psalm 27, Psalm 145, slowly and with full attention, as if giving birth to the word itself. Visualize your words merging with the mouth of Adam Kadmon, becoming a single utterance of unity. Yichud formula for the mouth. Chant quietly. Yichud Pine Adam Kadmon, Dibber Echid, unification of the face of Adam Kadmon, single word. Practice. Practice daily prayer or song as a conscious act of uniting your voice with the divine word. 3. The unified Yichud, the gate of gates. When the gates are sanctified individually, the adept moves toward their union. Unified meditation. Sit in silence, with eyes closed. Envision the four gates as channels converging at the heart. Imagine a brilliant light, the fullness of Adam Kadmon's visage, opening within your own being. Feel vision, hearing, breathing, and speech merging into one living aperture. Unified Yichud formula. Chant, Yichud Sahar Adam Kadmon, Kol Sharm Echid, unification of the gate of Adam Kadmon, all gates as one. Practice. Perform this meditation once daily, ideally at dawn or midnight, until the sensation of unity becomes natural. 4. Ritual sequence for ascending the Sahar. A ritual cycle that integrates all gates over 7 days, deepening sanctification and bringing the adept toward the living union. Day 1, eyes, vision. Focus on light meditation, seeing sparks and repairing perception. Day 2, ears, hearing. Dedicate to deep listening, silent prayer, Torah recitation. Day 3, nostrils, breath meditation, mindful breathing, breathing prayers. Day 4, mouth, speech. Recitation of sacred words, intentional speech. Day 5, eyes plus ears. Combine sight and hearing in silent contemplation. Day 6, nostrils plus mouth. Breathing and speech in unified prayer. Day 7, full union. Meditation on all four gates, chanting the unified Yichud formula. Repeat this cycle weekly, adjusting times according to the practitioner's capacity. 5. Advanced practices. For experienced adepts, Luria taught that the union of gates could be deepened through a. Time-bound Yichudim, aligning meditations with the sabbatical years, Shemitah, Jubilee, Yovel, or other Kabbalistic cycles. Meditating at specific hours of the night associated with Partsufim. B. Jilgal and breath work, incorporating guided reflection on past incarnations to align the nostrils gate with soul cycles. C. Torah-based gate meditations, using specific verses as focal points for each gate, aligning them with the divine archetypes of Adam Kadmon. 6. The goal living Adam Kadmon. The ultimate aim is not merely mystical knowledge, but transformation. To sanctify perception, listening, breath, and speech so completely that the adept becomes a living embodiment of the Sahar Adam Kadmon. This is the work of Tikkun, repairing the vessels, gathering sparks, and hastening the messianic dawn. It is the fulfillment of Luria's teaching that the exile ends when the gates stand open forever, when all souls breathe as one, when all speech is the utterance of unity.